Hello. On Friday, students wrote a practice quiz that is going to be very similar to an actual test that they're going to do on Tuesday, or we might postpone it till Wednesday to give students a little bit more time to practice and prepare. So I just wanted to go over just a couple little things to kind of help parents if they want to practice with their child and review their practice quiz that they brought home. Some students didn't get a chance to finish it. But they should have brought it home. Everyone should have brought it home. So we looked at three types of number patterns: repeating, growing, and shrinking. When we're talking about writing a pattern rule, when you're writing a repeating pattern rule, I really want to see that they outline the numbers that do repeat, that the word repeat is part of the sentence that they write. And it's not absolutely necessary, but I like them to use the word core. Pattern core is the part that repeats. When they're talking about a growing or shrinking pattern, they're in the good habit of always using the word start at, and then add and subtract. So if we're adding 4 each time or subtract 10 each time, that's how they've been taught to do it. And sometimes students are using that method for the repeating pattern. I'm trying to get them to just do something a little bit different when it's a repeating pattern. All you need to do is tell me what part repeats, but that's pretty straightforward. On this page, we have some open questions where there's more than one way to do it, where they're just asked to create a specific type of pattern following a specific criteria. I'm going to skip ahead to 5 and 6 like that. So for question 5, one of the things that we talked about is look at your repeating pattern and figure out where is the 8 going to land. So if we do just a 2-number pattern like 7, 8 or 8, 7, should the 8 be in the second spot or the first spot? Okay. And we've done this in class where if we do it in the second spot, the 8's going to be the second term, the 4th, the 6th, the 8th, the 10th. Always an even number. So that doesn't make sense because 15 is an odd number. If we put it in the first term, it's going to be the first term, the third term, the 5th, 7th, 9th. It's always going to be an odd number. So then I know that if I just keep repeating 8 and 7, 8 and 7, the 8 is going to land on the 15th term. It's going to be every odd number. If we were doing 3 numbers, same idea, 7, 6, 8. The 8 is going to be the 3rd, the 6th, the 9th, the 12th, the 15th. So it's going to land on 15. If they do something different like this, it's not going to land on 15 anymore, so it's not going to work. So that's what we talked about when trying to answer a question like this. For this one here, create a growing pattern where 60 will be the 10th term. Kind of messed that up, it's hard to see now. What we practice with that question is working backwards. So I'm going to put 60 way over here, and I'm going to work backwards. So if this is my 10th term, I got to create a growing pattern, but because I'm working backwards, I need to do the opposite of that and shrink instead. So let's say I decide to shrink by 2s or 5s. I'll do 5s. The hardest thing that's going to appear on this quiz, and the thing that we've practiced the most, is finding large terms in a pattern. So in this case, we're doing the 11th and the 21st. And I'll show you 3 different things that we've talked about in class, mainly really 2. The first is pretty straightforward. So I recopied this pattern here, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26. The first is just to keep going with the pattern, and they're allowed to use a calculator. So we talked about how with your calculator, you could just do 10 plus 4 equals 14. So that's term 2. There's term 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there you get your answer for the 11th term, and then keep going 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. There you get your 21st term. The second way is to take a little bit of a shortcut. And how I've explained that is we have our first term here, and we're going from 1st to 11th. So from 1 to 11 is 10 terms. And because it's 10 terms and the pattern is going up by 4s, every one term is going to increase by 4. So every 10 terms is going to increase by 10 times 4, which is 40. And so if this is 10, this is going to be 10, that 10 plus another 40 because it's 10 more terms. So 10 plus 40 is 50. And we're jumping another 10 terms. So we've already learned and understood that 10 terms is going to be a jump of 40. So 10 more terms is going to be 40 more, get to 90. Okay. That's the one that I've talked about the most in class. And the last thing is something I just did on Friday, which is a little bit advanced and kind of takes you into what they would do in later grades. So it's not something that I'm really expecting to see. But we talked about if we want to find any term, we would use the term number we're trying to find, multiplied by whatever the rule is, and we would add what I told them we're going to call term 0. So if we look at this particular pattern, this is term 1. If we created a term 0, we would simply go backwards. So instead of adding 4, we would subtract 4, and our term 0 would be 6. So if I'm trying to find, for example, the 11th term, I would do 11 times our rule, which is we're going up by 4s, so times 4, plus our 0 term, which we figured out was 6. And of course, 11 times 4 is 44, plus 6 is 50. Sorry, you can't see that. So that was something I showed them on Friday. It's not really something that they need to know for grade 4. The idea is that they're getting used to the concept of terms in a pattern and being able to see how we can extend patterns and take shortcuts, okay, like doing 10 times 4 to find larger terms in a pattern, okay? Same question, but with a repeating pattern. So how we're going to do this is a little bit different, but pretty straightforward. We just count. So I don't really need to worry about, this pattern is 3 digits long. There's 3 items in the core. So I just count them. The 5, 8, and 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 8 falls on 11. The 11th term is 8. And I could keep counting, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 would be the 9th term. We talked about a shortcut is we look at the length of the core. In this case, the length of the core is 3 digits. So we focus on the last digit in the core. And because it's 3 digits, we just count by 3s. So this is going to be the 3rd term, the 6th term, the 9th, the 12th, the 15th, the 18th, the 21st term. And so if I ask them for like a larger number, like the 45th term or the 50th term, the idea that they'd maybe take a shortcut by counting by 3s. If I put a pattern with 5 numbers in the core, then they would count by 5s. Okay, so that's the shortcut that we talked about. These questions were pretty straightforward. They're being given the pattern rule, so show me the pattern based on the rule. A handful of students kind of skipped this part. They wrote down the next number. So if it says start at 12, 12 should be the first number you write, and then 15. A lot of students kind of skipped the 12 because it's already there and started writing down 15. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. And finally, there'll definitely be like a problem-solving question that involve kind of like a real situation with people. So here's an example that they had to do Friday. Pretty straightforward. Jack starts with 130 cards. Jill starts with 20. So week 1, 130 cards for Jack, 20 cards for Jill. And then Jack's going up by 10s. Jill's going up by 15s. So we just write those numbers down in the table. Part 2. Okay, what's going to happen 10 more weeks later? So it's, again, sticking with 10 more weeks. The common mistake here is some students are doubling this. So we've talked in class about how you can't double that because this doesn't start at 0. It starts at different numbers. So you can't just double that because the 130, they're not getting a new stack of 130. So doubling is not going to work. You either have to extend the pattern 10 more times. So 240, 250, 260, 270, all the way to 21 weeks. Or the shortcut that we kind of just looked at with those other questions is to just understand this is 230, 11 weeks. 10 more weeks is going to be 10 weeks times 10 more cards each week. So that's 10 times 10. That gets you 100. So then if I'm taking 230, I'm just adding 100 to 230. That gets me 330. Same idea here, 170. For Jill, she's getting 15 more cards. So the shortcut would be to say 15 cards times 10 weeks is going to get you 150. So then you're going to add 170 plus 150 equals 220. Sorry, 320. 320, which you can't see. Okay, so that would be the shortcut. If they do the shortcut or they just extend these from 11 weeks to 21 weeks, either way works for me. They're solving the problem accurately. And then this question purposely has Jack still with a little bit more cards than Jill after 21 weeks. But students are hoping, I'm hoping students will see that Jill is clearly catching up. The difference is getting smaller. And because if she keeps collecting more cards per week than Jack, that she will catch up to Jack and surpass him. And if I wanted to make it even harder, I could ask a question like, when will that happen? How can you figure that out? That could be like an extension of that question. And hopefully that helps with the practice test. Let me know if you have any questions, and try to practice with your child over the next few days. Maybe go over this. Hopefully they brought it home